This episode of Her Brilliant Health is brought to you by the Shine Shake Detoxifying, Energizing, and Balancing Breakfast Meal Replacement Shake with 18 grams of protein, low sugar, and great taste and vanilla latte flavor. Gives you clean caffeine from the Kona coffee bean from Hawaii and vitamins and minerals and detoxification support, as well as gut healing support and hormone balancing support to energize you and power you through your day so that you can start having greater energy and losing weight. Sign up for my Eat This Not That free program on my website, KyrinDunstanMD.com, and that's also where you can find the shake. You're listening to episode number 55.
She used to deliver babies, but now she delivers exceptional wellness for women. Welcome to Her Brilliant Health Radio, where holistic women's health expert and board-certified OBGYN Dr. Kyrin Dunstan shares revolutionary insight from leading experts on what you need to know today to treat the root cause of disease, heal, and create the radiant health you've been searching for.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Her Brilliant Health Radio. I'm Dr. Kyrin, your host, and so glad that you decided to take your precious time and join me today. I think it will be well worth it for you. Today I'm talking with Dr. Keira Barr, who is a wonderful dermatologist who has a very holistic and integrative perspective and understands that skin health, like all of parts of our physical health, has to do with so much more than your skin. Let me tell you a little bit about her. Dr. Keira Barr is a top health expert helping women address the skin they're in, literally and figuratively, to achieve greater physical, mental, and spiritual resilience. Her authenticity has won the hearts of thousands of women during her 20 years in medicine who need the fun, non-judgmental combo of sage expert, motivating mentor, and best friend to be the best they can be in the boardroom, the bedroom, and in the home. Dr. Barr blends her expertise as a dual board-certified dermatologist with integrative wellness, positive psychology, and her own health struggles to bring a unique blend of knowledge, experience, and compassion to her work. Welcome, Dr. Keira Barr. Okay. Hi, Keira. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm wonderful, and I'm so excited to have you here and talk to you and share you with everybody, because I think that you have so much to offer the world based on your experience as a physician, as a dermatologist, a dermatopathologist, but also someone who's discovered her larger calling. And I think that that's what we're here on this earth to do, is to evolve ourselves and help each other evolve. And you have done it. So I'm really happy to have you here.
Well, thank you. And I think I would preface that with, I haven't done it. I'm doing it.
We're all doing it.
We're still on this journey, and I don't want to give the impression that it's that I got all my shit together. I am still learning, and I think that's the beautiful part of all of this, is that every day is an opportunity to keep growing and keep learning and keep deciding what you're going to strip off that's not serving you anymore, and pick up some new things.
Right. I agree. And sometimes I know I can want to keep my light small because I say, well, I don't have all the answers. I don't know everything there is to know. And the truth is, I'll never know everything there is to know. And yet my unique journey, just like yours, has brought me information that other people need. And so getting on the path of sharing that, I think for both of us, is so important, because there are people out there who don't have a medical education, who don't understand the politics of health or lack thereof in our country, who don't understand the politics of pharmacology, of food, and they're kind of living in this manufactured non-reality, and that's keeping them sick. And so I love that we're keeping them healthy. But so instead of speaking in esoterics, let's get to the meat of it. So you are the skin whisperer. You help people have healthier skin, but you started out as a regular dermatologist, regular brilliant dermatologist, I should say. So what was your path from dermatology to doing what you do now?
Yeah. We all have our health journey. And I think that, that's originally how we connected, because we were in a similar group. And the only way that I got into that, functional medicine approach is because my own health fell apart. So it really started, I was on faculty at UC Davis in an academic job, writing the papers, teaching the residents, doing all the things that would equate to a successful career. And I really wasn't that happy. And at the time I was running ultra marathons thinking, well, I'll exercise and I'll do, again, thinking I'm doing all these right things, but I was in chronic pain. Despite having a great husband and kids and this career, I just wasn't feeling that fulfilled. And so it's really interesting. The focus of my career was skin cancer and melanoma. I did a melanoma fellowship. That was my passion. And my going away party from UC Davis when we decided to relocate to Washington was the party, which was great, thanks to my colleagues. And then I had to walk right into the operating suite to have my melanoma cut out. So I had become my own worst nightmare. And, fast forward, melanoma was thankfully caught early because I do know what to look for. And that is my passion to teach people to look at their own skin so they can save their own life. But it was the tip of the iceberg of this downward health spiral and, hormonal issues, gut issues. I had to have 2 major reconstructive surgeries because I had torn my hip. And through that, traditional medicine just wasn't working. As much as I appreciated the brilliance of my clinicians, they just wanted to give me pills. And those pills were just making me feel worse. And so, as a physician with 20 years of medicine under my belt, realizing what the hell I'm doing, like my traditional training did not prepare me for this. How do I heal myself? And thinking I'm doing everything right. I was running marathons. I was eating healthy and wearing my sunscreen. And, the proverbial poop hit the fan. And I really had to learn a new way of doing things and really nourishing myself from both the inside out and the outside in. And that has led me to where I am now. And I know it's not easy. If as a physician, if I couldn't easily figure it out, how is people without knowing where to look in the literature or going to all these different conferences, how are they going to sort through all the data? And Dr. Google is awesome, but sometimes can lead you astray, and the information there isn't applicable to you as the individual. So I really wanted to cut through the noise and help guide women, especially, be able to navigate this so they can address their skin both literally and figuratively, of like, how are we showing up in it? How are you going to address it? How are you going to deal it? How are you going to heal it?
So how did you cut through the noise? What really started making sense to you?
The biggest part of it is cutting through the noise is kind of doing your best to tune it out and really tuning into your own body, really listening in. So, I'm a big proponent of, the skin, this largest organ that we have. It is, at times it'll be your greatest cheerleader. It'll glow. It gives you good feedback, but it's also a really shitty confidant. So when you are not taking care of yourself, if you're not sleeping well, if you're not fueling your body with foods that really can nourish it, it shows up. It shows up on the surface. It shows up for me, it's this dry, scaly patches, eczema can flare, psoriasis can flare, acne breakouts, all sorts of different conditions. And so really tuning into what your body and your skin especially is trying to communicate with you is the best way to do that noise.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting that you are focused on skin pathology, because that's what dermatologists do. They're always looking at what's wrong with your skin, biopsy diagnostics, and focusing on, and you've got to prevent melanoma, and you've got to wear sunscreen, and you developed melanoma. And so if you think about law of attraction, which I do believe in, what you focus on grows, and here it kind of really manifested in your life. That's fascinating. And I know that you speak a lot about your skin story. Mm-hmm. Tell us what that means.
Yeah. So it's kind of twofold. I think in number one, what I was just mentioning, literally what shows up on your skin. Acne is a perfect example. It's something that many of us dealt with in young adolescence, and now round two as maturing women, as our hormones are shifting and a lot of women are breaking out, and it's incredibly frustrating. When the acne shows up and where it shows up, especially around the jawline, we know that there's a correlation between the location of that and hormonal issues. It's a clue to maybe something that you're eating is triggering it. Dairy and sugar are big correlates to turning on the insulin growth factor 1 and which can stimulate your oil glands to produce more sebum and contribute to acne formation. So I think, literally just looking at your skin and taking notice of what is there is really an invitation to dive deeper into some lifestyle factors, nutrition, sleep, movement, all of that. Mm-hmm. The other part of that story is, we have these fine lines and wrinkles. We have the dyspigmentation, stretch marks, scars, especially as women who've had children. And in our society where everything is about anti-aging and trying to essentially make you into something that you're not, I find that incredibly frustrating. Why can't we just embrace? There's room for editing the story. You may want to rewrite a few parts of it, but kind of owning who we are being in the skin. That expression of everywhere wherever you go, there you are. Mm-hmm. We take ourselves wherever we go, and how we show up in this skin. Literally, your self-esteem, it comes down to self-esteem and self-worth and how you view yourself. And that translates to how you show up in this world. So knowing and becoming familiar with what are your belief system and your values, and not necessarily fighting against it, but embracing it and learning how to work with it so that you can show up powerfully, especially as a woman who, as women, we take on a lot. And I love my husband dearly, but our wiring is a bit different. We take oftentimes on the weight of the world, our own, not just us, but our children, our coworkers, and all of that. And it can play out like those dark circles, those, the exaggerated wrinkles and all of that. It all factors in.
So if I hear what you're saying about the skin story, it's more than just the diagnosis and treatment that you might get at a dermatologist's office. It's what are the components of a story? There's the main character, that's you, and then there are the ancillary supportive characters, and there are things that happen in a story. So more than the diagnosis and treatment, which are almost like an event in time, your skin story is really the story of your life. And it kind of reads like, once upon a time, there was a little girl, and she grew up in blank, because that matters where you grew up. And she was exposed to blank and blank toxins, because that matters. And she experienced emotional trauma in high school when blank happened, and that affected her skin. And then when she was an adult, and so it's really kind of, and tell me if I'm wrong, but this is what I would imagine it to be. It's this story of your life where all these inputs come in and events happen, and that's the story of your skin now. Is that what you're referring to, kind of?
In many ways, yeah. I mean, what shows up, those scars, for me, you can't see it in this light, but I've got tons of sun damage. And that was because I was made fun of. I was born with 2 birthmarks, one on each side of my face, and I was made fun of for it. And I tried to hide that with sunburns and suntans. And so hence all the freckles and the moles that I acquired. That's part of that story. But I think the beautiful part of all of this is we are all still writing that story. And if there are parts of that story, especially with regards to the trauma, for me, there was a bit of bullying about my skin, and I'm sure everyone has, no one is immune to trauma, and they carry that, but that doesn't mean that you have to carry it forever. And my call to action for everybody is always to get naked, right? Number one, we have to get naked because skin cancer is the most prevalent cancer in our country and essentially worldwide. It is the most preventable and the most ignored. So I need you to get naked so I can teach you how to check that skin so you can save your own life. But more importantly, it's that idea of, let's go skinny dipping and strip off all the layers that aren't serving you and are keeping your story maybe in a spot that you're not as excited about. And that's regarding the trauma and the, habits that are not serving you as well. Kind of figuring out who you are. Like I was derm, like that's who I was. And then I walk away from that. And then I have this opportunity just to be a stay-at-home mom, which is a gift. But I realized like, I couldn't just stay there. Yeah, I knew that I had so much more to do and to give. And there's nothing wrong with, being home and 100% for your kids. But I know for myself, I actually was hurting the relationships with my children because even though I was present, I wasn't as present because I knew that I needed to do some more than that to, free my mind a little bit.
So you had chatter going on because you're like, Keira, what are you doing with all that education you had? I know because I have this. What are you doing with all that education? Why aren't you in an office billing insurance for, and cutting things off of people? Yeah. But I so believe that the universe, that our souls have contracts before they come here and that we have to fulfill those. And we will have that chatter until we answer those calls, and that the events that happen, because just like you had this position and then the guy decided not to retire, so you had no job. I think that those things happen for a reason because we're meant to go to what we are meant to express in this lifetime. And it's funny because I had that too. And I would say, oh, well, I'm going to go work for these people. And universe would be like, no, you're not. And the last time I tried to do this, which I don't fool myself anymore that that's even a possibility, is I went and I was made deathly ill by all the toxins they had in their building that they had newly built out. And so universe will clearly show you that is not yours to do. And so I can identify with that feeling and see that it's brought you to this place of helping so many people.
Yeah. And I think, what I found is we teach best what we need to learn the most. And instead of hiding from the fact, that I struggled with, and I still at times, well, don't we all, but like struggle with self-esteem issues and knowing your worth. And in this idea of embracing who we are rather than like rejecting it, because that shows up in how we interact with people. It shows up in the choices we make every day, from the food we put in our mouth, of soothing emotion versus fueling your body for how you actually want to feel. And that's been, that is the calling, right? Like, because I needed to heal myself. And through that, I feel like I have so much more empathy and compassion because I get it. I know that this is hard and it's not easy and I'm still doing it. So if I can help elevate other women and support them through their journey, because in many instances, I am many, many steps ahead, just because I've been trying to figure this stuff out for quite a while. And so, that expression, rising tide lifts all ships, lifts all boats, it is true. We don't have to do this alone, and we also don't always have to have it all figured out in order to help a collective group move forward.
So yeah, so you're really getting to the nitty gritty of it, the that you needed to develop kind of the self-esteem and confidence. So what has that been like? You identify that, and what does it look like in your life, and how do you move through that? Because doing this type of work, being on podcasts, on YouTube, Facebook, writing books, really requires that you have healthy self-esteem, if not to a pathologic degree. And I find that I struggle with that too. Sometimes my head will say, well, who are you to say, and who are you to do? And so what have you learned about that, and how have you moved through that, and how do you move through that?
Right. That's a phenomenal question. And again, it's just this personification of the skin, right? Like you grow a thicker skin. And it's not to ignore what people are saying, but kind of, I navigated from a place of trying to be a pleaser most of my life, right? Because what was on my skin, those birthmarks were displeasing to people. I was like, well, then I have to make my skin look pleasing, get the sunburns and suntan to hide it. And as a person, I need to be a pleaser. I need to be a really good student, follow all the rules. And like, that made me sick. And I'm not saying I'm just going to be like, F you to everything, but also know that it's okay to listen to me and trust myself and look within rather than always looking for that external validation. Not everyone is going to like me. Not everyone is going to agree with me, which is hard, right? Because I was used to operating from that place. And I wanted that. But understanding that we all have opinions. We are all entitled to them. And mine is just as valid and legit as somebody else's, and having that mutual respect for everybody. And so I think it's from that place, of putting myself out there, which is very hard. I became a pathologist for a reason. I liked being behind the scenes. But I think it's important that we all respectfully are able to speak our truths, because if it helps just one person, if it resonates with just one person who may be struggling, then it's worth it to suffer some criticism. Because what I've realized, like the majority, 99.99% of the time, it has nothing to do with you or me. It's that person's value system and their mindset. And I'm working so hard on mine and feel like it's fun to do, to challenge your beliefs, and are they really true, and are they really serving you? And so I think it's from that space of just kind of accepting what is and moving forward, and not allowing ourselves to be stuck. It makes it that much easier. And so when you stop looking outside for answers and realize that so much, like you are so powerful from within and you have the capacity to heal, it's going to take time. It's not easy. There is no quick fix. As a dermatologist, I can recommend lotions, potions, and salves for you, and that'll only get you so far. The real work, it's freaking hard, but it really is worth it, because you realize that you came into this world alone. You have to, even though you're surrounded by loved ones and friends and family, no one can walk in your shoes but you. And if you want to make if you want certain things, if you want to feel a certain way, then there are actions that you alone are going to have to take to manifest that. And in one hand, it's very frightening and daunting and scary. And on the other, I hope that it makes people feel incredibly powerful, that they have that capacity. And when you realize that you have that capacity, I think it gets a little bit easier to keep showing up, keep putting yourself out there and speaking up.
Right. And that is beautifully said. And as you're speaking, I'm reminded of a few things. One is Anita Moorjani. I think that's how you pronounce her last name. She's also a physician, and she had a near-death experience, and she wrote about it in her book is called Dying to Be Me. And it was exactly what we're discussing. It was she had fulfilled her role as pleasing everybody else in her life and become who she thought they wanted her to be. And she had a form of lymphoma and had a near-death experience. They basically had written her off and she almost died. And in her book, she talks about coming back and what that was all about. But it's about all the ways that we invalidate our authentic selves, because we're often trained as women and as boys. I just watched the movie the other night, The Mask That We Wear, or You Wear, something like that, about boys and the mask that they wear, and how we become what society thinks we should be. And then breaking out of that is the tool. And I mean, not the tool, but the journey. Mm-hmm. And the tool that liberates us from our health problems, because I believe that our health problems, our dis-ease, are really signs pointing to where we are not being authentic, allowing our energy to flow through us and allowing us to be authentic. And I love how transparent you are about this journey, because I struggle with this too. And it's a daily decision to choose for my authentic self and saying what I need to say and being who I need to be in this world. So thank you for doing that too.
Yeah. I mean, daily, it's like minute by minute, hour by hour, some days. Right. If I'm being perfectly honest.
Yes, it is.
And I think that's what all of this is. Like, honestly, I was just tired of it. I'm still tired. And I don't think it's this idea of in the age of Instagram and Facebook and highlight reels and all that other bullshit. So much of it is, if you don't mind my saying that, it is bullshit. And this comparison game and looking to it and having those feelings of inadequacy or shame and blame and all of that. It's detrimental. So on one hand, we're using technology right now to connect, and this is a beautiful way. I think this is how it's intended, to share and to communicate. But so much of what's out there, it's not real, and it contributes to the stress, the anxiety, and the overwhelm. And I'm such a huge proponent, not of being vulnerable or oversharing just for sharing's sake, but to, I guess, create that safe space where it's okay to acknowledge, like, this is hard. And, just because I have a pretty picture doesn't mean that everything is 100% behind that. And, like, walk alongside me. Like, I will support you. And you might need to give me a little pep talk as well, but like, we can do it together. And, getting naked for me, I haven't rolled it out yet, but it's coming. And I'm calling it skinny dipping for that.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah. So this idea that, right, like I said, getting naked is so important. Number one, I need you to look at what's showing up on your skin. So if we need to look a little bit deeper, not just for skin cancer, melanoma, but it's amazing in dermatology. It really, there are so many things that show up on the skin before an internal diagnosis is made. A lot of gut issues. I've seen metastatic cancer that the lump on the head that someone thought was maybe a cyst or really bad acne lesion that just wouldn't go away was metastatic cancer. So like, I just need you to look at your skin. And anything, when in doubt, check it out, go to your dermatologist and have them evaluate it. And if a biopsy is necessary, it's pretty painless. Just do it. But this idea of everything else that comes with that, like those thoughts that you're having, like the nutritional issues, like how we're fueling our bodies for how we want to feel, not just stuffing the emotions down. sleep is so vital, so important. I think we underestimate it. We'll put it in the bank, and we'll make up for it. But we know how important it is just for all the rhythms of our body, and for skin especially. Hair growth. I mean, melatonin stimulates your hair follicles. It's one of the most potent antioxidants, and they're using it topically now. It's in all the, the rage for skincare products these days because of its antioxidant properties and its role in prevention and management of skin cancer in research recently, which is really exciting. So all of that, we just got to strip off all the stuff, all the that just aren't serving us so that we can show up like these powerful women that we truly were meant to be. Really, we are, but maybe we're just not quite ready to embrace it.
Right. So we've talked a lot about the emotional component that comes along with skincare. Let's talk about some practical topical tips. You said lotions, potions, and salves. I love that. Like you're a witch conjurer of the skin. So melatonin, great ingredient. Let's talk about some common ingredients in skincare products. And I'd love to hear your thought on injectables as well. So what about topicals, high hyaluronic acid, vitamin C? What are some great ingredients in skincare products?
Yeah. And so I think it's also important. There's a ton of products out there. There's a ton of great products out there, and you could spend a fortune on them. And that's what Sephora and all the other creative beauty, like they're banking on that. And I would encourage everyone just to keep it simple. Like you need a cleanser, you need an antioxidant serum that has, your vitamin C, your vitamin E. Those are the two most potent and the most researched, working together in synergy to help combat the kind of the environmental gunk that you're being exposed to every day, air pollution and UV radiation. Air pollution is a close second behind UV radiation for causing discoloration of the skin. Listen, even if you don't get a chance to wash your face in the morning, wash it at night. So you can just like get all the junk off your face from the day. So vitamin C, vitamin E, hyaluronic acid your body makes up. That is what gives your skin that youthful, plump appearance. A lot of skincare products do have that in it. The amount that you're actually going to absorb is hard to know. It's the delivery, it's the formulation that they put it in. It's your skin barrier, whether it's intact. We do have a microbiome on our skin as well. So all of that factors in. Even though I'm always a proponent that sunscreen should essentially be your last line of defense, not your first, because I want people to protect themselves from the inside out with, eating a good, plentiful, colorful fruits, veggie, antioxidant-rich diet, and sleep and all that other stuff. I do believe that wearing a moisturizer with sunscreen, a mineral-based sunscreen, based on especially all the controversy in the news recently about oxybenzone and octinoxate. So wearing a daily moisturizer with sunscreen is crucial.
So can you tell people about that controversy? Because a lot of people don't know what's going on with that. So can you help them navigate that?
Sure. So I think it was, at the end of last year and just in February of this year. So there are multiple ingredients that have come under fire, in particular oxybenzone and octinoxate. So oxybenzone has been found in research to be an endocrine disruptor. So it kind of mimics our own hormonal chemicals and can cause or wreak havoc in the body. Also with regards to its impact on the environment and erosion of the coral reefs. So Hawaii led the charge. There's a few other states that by 2020, they're going to ban those certain ingredients that they can't be used. So your champion ingredients would be zinc oxide and titanium dioxide. The FDA also has what they call generally recognized as safe and effective, and they have a list of ingredients, but they're now taking a closer look at another 14 ingredients to see whether those should be put on the no-no list. So it's going to be a very interesting next few years to see what companies are going to do and how they're going to reformulate their products. But in the short term, I've always been a proponent of zinc oxide and titanium dioxide. Number one, they are well tolerated for just about every skin type. And nowadays they do micronize them, not the nanoparticles, the micronized. So they're a little bit bigger, and they have done studies that the absorption rate is not significant, deemed as safe, at least for now. And they come in tints. So for those with different skin tones, it doesn't have that white, ghosty appearance. It can be very cosmetically elegant.
Okay, wonderful. So that's great information. And do you have any brands that you recommend who have the safer ingredients in their products for sunscreen?
Yeah. So an over-the-counter one, and it's not inexpensive, but you think of it as part of your makeup. One that product is Kula, and what I love about it is it feels silky smooth. It's like this matte formulation, and it comes in tinted, and it has organic ingredients. And some of his formulations, the founder, this guy Chris, they smell delicious. But he does have both Sport, which has some of the chemical sunscreens like the oxybenzone. Read your labels. That's the most important thing. Read your labels. But he does have a mineral sunscreen, so that's great, and that's over the counter. My other favorite, which you can get on Amazon now, but some of the ones are only in dermatologist's office, and that's Ulta MD. I love the elements. It's, I think, SPF 44, and it's tinted and goes on so smooth. And essentially that's like my foundation. And I don't really wear makeup. I just wear my moisturizer with sunscreen. So Ulta MD is probably my number one.
Okay, great. Yeah. That's great information.
Yeah,
and then what about
no affiliation with them whatsoever.
Right. Those are the best endorsements.
Yeah.
And what about injectables, Botox, fillers? What are your thoughts on those from a holistic perspective?
I actually, I think they have a place. And I think it's all the intention behind why we may want to get them. So I do a small portion of my practice is Botox, a little concierge. I, treat my women. And the reason why I think it's so valuable is all, going back to some of the studies looking at Botox and depression. When we look in the mirror and we are scowling at ourselves and we're frowning, and we're, it's that whole idea of what is the thought behind that? How, the conversations that we're having with ourselves, they're so much more negative. We are beating ourselves up, especially when you look in the mirror and you're like, you look angry, you've got that resting bitch face all the time. You feel like a bitch. You feel like not so good. So by relaxing, especially in the glabella area, if you can relax some of those muscles, when you look in the mirror, and you're not looking so angry, it becomes a much more kinder, gentler conversation. And so for many women, I feel like it's this springboard, it's this gateway so that we can really start working on some of the other things. For others, sometimes the fillers and the Botox to help them look refreshed and reinvigorated when they look in the mirror and they feel like they look better. Again, it's that stimulus, that catalyst to like, all right, I want the rest of me to look as good as the outside. And from a holistic perspective, if you're going to invest that money, you want the biggest return on your investment. So that's where, eating well, focusing on not eating perfect. I'm still a big fan of a glass of red wine, but I've upgraded it to like biodynamic, organic, like, you can upgrade everything so that the money that you're spending goes a little further. So I think that there's a role for it. I think that, to enhance and celebrate your beauty rather than using these tools to mask all your flaws is the key.
And what about the ingredients that are used? So botulinum toxin is a naturally occurring substance, but what about the toxicity level with that or with some of the ingredients in the fillers? How does that contribute to your overall bucket of toxicity that I'm always telling people, you got to get rid of toxicity, get rid of toxicity. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's always a consideration. I don't think any studies necessarily have been done, at least that I'm aware of, that are really looking at that. And that would be really interesting. But in terms of like the quantity of Botox, like right now, and some studies are looking at maybe increasing the dosing. And I think it's all what people want, how much movement they want. But it's 20 units right here. When you were doing, when Botox really started being used, it was for neurologic and neurologic issues where the doses were like in the hundreds of units. I mean, and so, okay, maybe some of the preservatives and other things that they're using might have a greater impact. But what we're using in the face is the dosing is so small that I don't anticipate that it would be a huge hit. That being said, I mean, at the time that you have your injection, kind of upping your liver support and other things that, to support the body eating well would be valuable. But I don't think that it likely plays as significant of a role. And also it's weighing the pros versus the cons.
Right.
The emotional toll of being unhappy or scowling and all that, and the stress that creates versus a little preservative, that a little milk thistle and like support and other things that you might be able to help ease that through. Sauna, dry brushing, all that stuff. I don't know. I think for many, it's worth it.
And that, well, yeah. And I always think of Botox as it's really natural and it isn't that much and it's probably cleared pretty quickly. And then how about the fillers though? Because some of those are natural, but some are forever substances. So they're permanent. And what about their effect? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's interesting. So some of the most popularized ones are the hyaluronic acid based ones. And so they are in the body for a year, 12 to 18 months. The great thing is there's something called hyaluronidase that if you're like, oh shit, what did I just do? I don't want this anymore. Or, it didn't go well. There's this enzyme that breaks it down and then you clear it through the body. Ones like Sculptra or why am I blanking on the other name? It's made with a calcium hydroxyapatite ingredient that are more permanent and essentially help your own body recreate a scaffolding and supportive tissue. The studies they're very well tolerated, and so yes, it's a foreign agent that is in many ways stimulating inflammatory reaction in some senses, but it's very controlled and localized. I don't know. I think certainly there's always going to be someone who's with autoimmune disease or something like that may react very strongly. But overall, I think they're really quite well tolerated. I'm not a fan of like silicone, for instance, but the more popularized, well-researched, most commonly used fillers, especially the hyaluronic acid ones. Yeah, I'm not
pretty safe. In your opinion,
pretty safe. I mean, I haven't dug into the research so far, but that's not what's showing up in the literature. That's not what patients are complaining about. So,
okay,
adverse reactions.
Great. And let's see, we've talked about skin cancer prevention, sunscreen, emotional components of skin, your new program, Skinny Dipping. I just want you to tell people how they can find out more about your book, about your upcoming programs. Please let them know.
Yeah, so because I haven't put anything about the program out yet, the best way is to find me at my website, which is chooseresilience.com, or, shoot me an email, Dr. Barr, DRBARR at chooseresilience.com. Happy to give information. So yeah, I personally respond to everyone. Like I love getting the notes and because there's a lot of women who have a lot of questions, a lot of concerns, and I get it. So I'm happy to do as much research. And if I don't have the answer, I think that's what makes this beautiful world go round. People like yourself made so many wonderful, beautiful connections that I can point people in the right direction if I'm not the one. So yeah.
Awesome. So we'll have links in the show notes, and we'll put your email too if you'd like.
Sure.
And I'm sure people will appreciate having that. When's the last time you got a doctor's email to email them with questions? Like never. So we'll definitely have that. And you've shared so much wisdom, and people are probably thinking, ooh, where do I start? What do I need to do first? So what would be the top 3 take action steps that you would leave them with today to improve their skin health?
Yeah. Number 1, get naked and have fun with it. I always say, get your significant other or, who's ever willing to take a look at your back. But pick the date of your birthday once a month. So you'll never forget the date, put it in your calendar. And before you get in the shower, you're already naked. Check yourself out head to toe, between the fingers, between the toes, bottom of the feet, all your intimate bits. Get that mirror, girlfriend,
all your intimate bits, including down below. I call, when I was a kid, I used to call being naked my baby soup. I was in my baby soup. So get in your baby soup, but look at your bits also.
Totally. Because we do see lesions there. So that would be number 1. Number 2 is this skin, embrace it. It's not about anti-aging. It's embrace aging, right? Just love who you are right now. That doesn't mean that there isn't room to grow, but this is what you got. It's here to protect you. It's not here to sabotage you. And what was 3? Oh, sleep. Beauty sleep is real, girls. Guys, all of you, it's real. Value it.
Yes, I think skin beauty happens between the sheets. Absolutely.
In so many ways. Don't underestimate around that either. That is huge for stress release and all your good endorphins and making you glow, all that good stuff.
Right, and your oxytocin. We need to have a whole nother podcast about sex and your skin because it's so vital. And the name of the podcast is Her Brilliant Health, which you certainly exemplify. What does that mean to you? How do you define that?
That's such a great question. It's really tuning in to your body and yourself, and your skin is the greatest window to and reflection of your overall state of well-being. So paying attention, tuning in.
I love that. And it almost just popped in my head. If the eyes are the window into the soul, the skin is the window into your body. Mm-hmm. It's so it's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing yourself and your expertise and your journey and your light with us today. Thank you so much, Keira.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thank you for joining me for this episode of Her Brilliant Health Radio. Hopefully you're inspired to take action on some new information you received today. A step towards the bountiful, blissful, beautiful vitality that you deserve. If you have health topics and questions you'd like addressed, please message me on my Facebook page or visit KyrinDunstonMD.com and let me know. I'd love to help. Remember to share this podcast on social media and send it to your friends and family who could benefit from it too. If you love the show, please go right now to iTunes, write a review, and make sure to subscribe to the podcast so you'll be the first to know when future episodes are available. Thank you again for joining me, and remember, achieving optimal health isn't magic, it's science.